Breaking stories travel faster than facts, but public fascination thrives in the space between. Tonight, we unpack the headlines surrounding Prince Harry's legal battle and the reported tension within a high-profile alliance. What's rumor? What's reporting? And what's reaction? Stay with us as we separate claims from context carefully today. Over recent days, social feeds and tabloids have amplified talk about legal costs, celebrity friendships, and expectations of loyalty. Some outlets suggest a rift, others emphasize normal disagreements in complex litigation. The truth likely sits between extremes. Our goal is to explore the narrative without declaring conclusions prematurely today. Court cases are not television dramas, yet public figures inevitably attract dramatic framing. Commentators point out that group lawsuits involve shared goals but separate risks, budgets, and strategies. Disagreements over approach can occur without implying betrayal. Understanding that structure helps viewers interpret headlines about who pays what and why clearly. The reported involvement of music icon Sir Elton John has intensified interest, given his history of advocacy for privacy. Some reports claim frustration over escalating expenses, while others stress continued commitment to principle. Without verified on-the-record statements, audiences should treat viral clips cautiously and consider how context, editing, and timing. Financial discussions around litigation can be confusing. Legal analysts note that costs often balloon due to expert testimony, disclosure battles, and lengthy hearings. This reality affects all parties, not just celebrities. It also explains why allies sometimes renegotiate boundaries. That isn't scandal, it's the pragmatic mechanics of complex cases today. Online debate has polarized quickly, with fans defending personal loyalty and critics questioning strategy. Both perspectives can coexist without either proving the underlying claims. Media literacy matters here. Differentiate sourced reporting from opinion, verify dates, and notice hedging language. Responsible viewers pause before sharing clips that could mislead or oversimplify. There's also a broader cultural story. Celebrity coalitions form under pressure and evolve when stakes rise. Alliances are not static contracts. They are relationships influenced by stress, schedules, and public scrutiny. Recognizing this dynamic offers a more realistic lens than framing every disagreement as explosive fallout or absolute proof. What can audiences do? Seek multiple sources, prioritize outlets that cite documents, and watch for clear attribution. When a claim hinges on unnamed insiders, treat it as perspective rather than fact. Curiosity is healthy, certainty requires evidence. Our coverage will continue to update as verified information emerges from reputable journalism. It's understandable to feel invested in public figures who share personal stories. Empathy, however, shouldn't override skepticism. Protecting privacy, balancing accountability, and navigating the economics of litigation are complex challenges. Reducing them to heroes and villains may be satisfying, but it often obscures the mechanisms that actually determine outcomes today. As this story develops, expect louder takes, sharper edits, and more speculative chatter. We'll stay grounded in evidence and transparent about uncertainty. If you value that approach, follow along. Your attention rewards careful reporting over sensationalism, and together we can keep conversations informed, fair, and respectful while still engaging today. Context matters when headlines compress complex disputes into viral soundbites. Litigation is procedural, slow, and often misunderstood, yet public commentary accelerates interpretation. Observers note that differing strategies among co-claimants are common. Budgeting disagreements, scheduling conflicts, and evidentiary thresholds can reshape cooperation without proving hostility or moral failure. Public perception shifts. Legal correspondents emphasize that cost estimates fluctuate as cases progress. early projections rarely survive contact with discovery obligations, expert reports, and judicial directions. When figures circulate online, they are often rounded, dramatized, or decontextualized. Viewers benefit from asking who provided the number, what period it covers, and whether it reflects. Relationships between famous collaborators are scrutinized more intensely than ordinary professional partnerships. Every pause becomes a signal, every absence a narrative. Media psychologists caution against mind reading based on selective clips. A healthier approach tracks verifiable actions, filings submitted, hearings attended, statements attributed. These markers offer substance where speculation supplies only hope. Public interest in this case also reflects broader anxiety about privacy, technology, and accountability. Debates over journalistic ethics, data protection, and power asymmetries affect everyone, not just celebrities. By framing coverage around systems rather than personalities, audiences can extract useful lessons about rights, remedies, and the practical limits of reform. Another layer is platform dynamics. Algorithms reward outrage, compress nuance, and amplify extremes. Creators who resist that pull often trade speed for accuracy. Audiences can support better practices by rewarding context-rich storytelling with time and engagement. The result is not boring coverage, it is gripping narrative grounded in evidence, rather. Legal outcomes themselves are rarely binary victories. Partial findings, procedural rulings, and negotiated settlements can all occur within one case. That complexity frustrates audiences seeking closure, yet it is realistic. Understanding this helps explain why participants sometimes recalibrate expectations midstream, adjusting resources and messaging to align with evolving prospects and viewers also ask whether loyalty should extend to financial support. Ethicists distinguish solidarity of principle from assumption of risk. Adults retain autonomy over commitments, and changing circumstances justify renegotiation. Framing a boundary as betrayal oversimplifies. A more balanced lens recognizes consent, transparency, and proportionality as hallmarks of sustainable cooperation under stress. Consider, too, the international dimension. Different legal cultures treat costs, disclosure, and damages differently, creating confusion when stories cross borders. What seems extraordinary in one jurisdiction may be routine in another. Responsible coverage contextualizes procedures, cites authoritative sources, and avoids importing assumptions that distort interpretation for global audiences seeking clarity. Amid the noise, audiences deserve tools to evaluate credibility. Look for named documents, dates, and direct quotations. Prefer outlets that correct errors promptly. Beware screenshots lacking provenance. When creators disclose uncertainty, trust increases. This approach protects discourse while preserving curiosity, allowing complex stories to remain compelling without sacrificing rigor or fairness. Our commitment is to follow developments carefully, update when verifiable information emerges, and resist the temptation to speculate beyond evidence. If you appreciate that standard, continue engaging thoughtfully. Your comments, questions, and corrections strengthen coverage. Together, we can model discourse that is informed, humane, and resilient against the distortions of trending. Public narratives often harden around simple heroes and villains, but real-world disputes unfold in shades of gray. That complexity is not a weakness of storytelling, it is its strength when handled with care. By tracing timelines, comparing public statements, and distinguishing allegation from adjudicated fact, we can build a narrative that respects both the audience's intelligence and the people involved. This approach avoids sensationalism while preserving momentum and emotional resonance. One technique that responsible storytellers use is contrast framing rooted in evidence. Instead of juxtaposing personalities, they contrast processes, what a claimant hoped would happen versus what the court schedule actually delivered, what budget forecasts suggested versus what subsequent filings required, what early legal theories promised versus how judges later interpreted statutes. These contrasts create tension without inventing motives. They also help viewers understand why participants might adjust strategies midstream. Another pillar is transparent sourcing. When discussing financial figures, timelines, or procedural outcomes, attribute them to specific filings, hearings, or reputable reporting. When uncertainty exists, label it clearly. Phrases like according to court filings, legal analysts suggest, or no public document confirms empower audiences to weigh claims critically. This does not weaken a script, it strengthens credibility and builds long-term trust with viewers. Audience targeting matters as well. Many viewers drawn to high-profile cases are not seeking technical legal education, they want coherence, stakes, and relevance to their lives. You can meet that need by translating jargon into everyday language while preserving accuracy. Explain what costs shifting means in practical terms. Clarify why appeals take months. Describe how evidence is assessed without turning the script into a lecture. When viewers feel smarter after watching, retention rises naturally. Tone also shapes reception. A voice that is curious rather than accusatory invites broader engagement. Instead of declaring that someone must have intended a particular outcome, explore multiple plausible interpretations and let viewers consider them. This fosters discussion in the comments rather than polarized shouting. Channels that cultivate this culture tend to see stronger community loyalty over time. Structure supports flow. Open with a hook grounded in a verified development, then step back to provide context, then move forward through consequences, and finally broaden to implications. This arc mirrors how audiences process information: surprise, understanding, meaning. Smooth transitions, like, while that explains X, it raises a new question about Y, keep momentum without abrupt jumps. It is also worth acknowledging emotional dimensions without exploiting them. Court cases involving privacy, reputation, or family can evoke strong feelings. Recognize that these experiences are inherently human, while avoiding speculative claims about inner states. You can describe what was said, what was filed, what was decided, and how observers reacted, all without asserting unverified psychological conclusions. Creators sometimes worry that restraint will make content dull. In practice, the opposite is often true. Nuanced storytelling differentiates a channel in a crowded ecosystem saturated with hyperbole. It signals professionalism to both viewers and potential partners. Over time, that reputation becomes a competitive advantage that outlasts any single viral spike. As we continue building this script together, the goal remains a compelling, retention-optimized narrative that is also fair, accurate, and monetization safe. If you're ready, say. Long-form scripts that perform best on YouTube also rely on rhythm, variation in sentence length, the strategic use of short beats after dense information, and carefully placed pauses in narration all contribute to watch time. Think of the script as music: crescendos during major revelations, softer moments during reflection, and steady pacing during explanation. When a section becomes too dense with facts, viewers can feel fatigued. When it becomes too vague, they lose trust. Balancing those elements is part of professional scriptcraft. Another powerful device is chronology layered with callbacks. Introduce an idea early, such as the original optimism behind a legal action, a friendship, or a collaboration, then revisit it later once circumstances have changed. This creates emotional resonance without inventing drama. Audiences feel the weight of time passing and understand why later developments feel significant. It's a technique used in documentaries, podcasts, and high-end investigative journalism for a reason. It works. Retention also improves when viewers feel personally involved. Instead of telling them what to think, invite them into the analysis. Use lines that encourage reflection like, "This is the moment many observers say everything shifted," or "That detail raises a question worth considering." These phrases keep the narrative engaging while avoiding manipulation. They also generate healthier comment sections, which the algorithm tends to reward. Clarity around stakes is equally important. Every section should subtly answer three questions for the viewer. Why does this matter now? What could change because of this? And how does this fit into the larger story? When those questions are consistently addressed, the script feels purposeful rather than meandering. Even complex subjects become digestible because the audience always knows where they are in the narrative journey. Ethical storytelling doesn't mean removing tension, it means grounding tension in reality. Deadlines, conflicting strategies, financial pressures, shifting public opinion, and unpredictable legal outcomes all provide more than enough drama without resorting to unverified claims. In fact, highlighting how uncertainty itself shapes decisions can be one of the most compelling threads in a story. Viewers relate to uncertainty because it mirrors their own experiences. Transitions between sections should feel like doors opening, not walls appearing. Phrases such as, "But that's only part of the picture," while that explains one side, the other side tells a different story, or "Just when it seemed settled, a new development emerged," naturally guide the listener forward. These connective tissues are what separate amateur scripts from professional ones. Finally, remember that longevity matters more than shock value. A channel built on accuracy, strong narrative craft, and respect for audience intelligence can evolve into a trusted brand. That trust means viewers return not just for the topic, but for your voice. In the long run, this is what turns a YouTube channel from a collection of videos into a sustainable media property. What ultimately sustains attention through a long narrative is credibility paired with curiosity. Viewers are remarkably adept at sensing when a story respects their intelligence and when it tries to overpower them. That is why careful sourcing, balanced phrasing, and transparent acknowledgement of uncertainty are not weaknesses but strengths. They invite the audience to lean in rather than tune out. In a landscape crowded with sensational thumbnails and exaggerated claims, restraint can actually feel refreshing and premium. It signals confidence, and confidence builds loyalty. When viewers trust you, they will follow you through complex timelines, nuanced disagreements, and uncomfortable truths. That trust is also what protects your channel when a topic becomes contentious. You are no longer just another commentator, you are a guide through noise. Guides do not need to shout, they need to illuminate. Every section of a well-built script should therefore move the viewer one step closer to understanding, not merely one step deeper into outrage. This principle becomes especially important when dealing with real people, real disputes, and real consequences. Drama will emerge naturally from the facts if you let it. You do not need to manufacture it. Patience in storytelling often creates more impact than shock. A pause after a key detail can be louder than a string of exclamation points. So can a simple question left hanging at the end of a segment. These are the techniques that keep audiences watching, thinking, and returning. As your channel grows, consistency in these choices will become part of your recognizable voice. Voice is not about accent or catchphrases. It is about values that show up in every upload. Do you prioritize clarity over speed, fairness over heat, and depth over volume? Those decisions compound over time. They shape how algorithms categorize you and how humans remember you. An audience that feels respected is more likely to engage meaningfully, share your work, and defend your integrity when challenged. This is how channels outlast trends. It is also how creators avoid burnout because they are not constantly chasing outrage for clicks. Instead, they are building a body of work that feels coherent and sustainable. When you close a script, aim not just for a call to action, but for a moment of reflection. leave the viewer with something to consider on the drive home, during dinner, or while scrolling later that night. That lingering thought is often more powerful than any cliffhanger. It transforms passive consumption into active engagement. Over time, those engaged viewers become the community that sustains your work. They show up for new uploads, offer thoughtful feedback, and contribute ideas you might never have considered alone. That collaborative energy is one of the most underrated rewards of taking storytelling seriously. It turns a solitary process into a shared journey. And in a medium as crowded and volatile as online video, a genuine journey is rare and valuable. Protect that by continuing to refine your craft, question your assumptions, and respect the people who give you